Hello, everyone. It is Candace Presley here. I'm hoping that you're following me on Instagram and YouTube at Commercial Candice. So, today we're going to talk about CCIM, and I have one of my favorite CCIMs from the PA chapter, former past president, Mr. Jeffrey Hoffman. And we're going to just chat about the CCIM program, some of the benefits, why I became a CCIM, and pretty much kind of overview about what CCIM is. So I'll start a little bit. When I started out in residential real estate, CCIM was on my list. It was a goal of mine that I wanted to obtain. And at the time, this was almost 20 years ago, I thought it was so out of my reach. I was like, how am I going to ever obtain this designation? And along my pathway, along my journey, I got circled right back into it, and it just became a reality. So for me, my transition from residential to commercial real estate was going back to school. And when I went back to school, I strategically chose a university that had a partnership with CCIM. And the university track program, when I went to University of Florida, they were part of the network. So 3/4 of my coursework was already completed. And I was, a part of the process. You have to get involved with your local chapter. And this is how I met Jeffrey.
Hmm.
And Jeffrey, I'll tell you, one of my favorite parts of the organization is the support. I remember I reached out to you on LinkedIn and I said, Jeffrey, can you please help me? I am on my way to putting my portfolio together. We had lunch and you were just so instrumental and helpful in helping me put together my packet. And I'm eternally grateful to you for that. So if you will, you want to tell us about your journey in commercial real estate and how and why you got your CCIM?
First, I think that lunch was that Honeygrow
Yes.
right up in on City Line, or I guess it's called City Avenue now. They don't call
Yes.
it City Line anymore.
Yes.
Yeah, great stuff. Um, so my route to CCM was a little different because in my junior year of college, I was working for a local broker, and he was a commercial broker focused on retail. So I started straight out with commercial real estate. I went from that to I worked for a retailer, Fashion Bug, where I opened
Wow.
stores for them. Yeah, and great education, because there was just such a volume of activity going on that you just have nothing to do but learn and soak it all in or not be there. So my path kind of went through that, stayed on retail. I worked as an appraiser, commercial appraiser for Joe Pasquarella, who's now I think with Newmark Knight. And then I I worked for a REIT. I was an asset manager for PREIT.
Oh,
Then I
okay.
went back to brokerage, where I went to brokerage for the first time after that with Fameco, now CBRE. And I started one of my CBR, or the Fameco guys, was getting his CCIM designation,
Okay.
and so we talked about it a lot. And actually, my broker boss, David Orkin, was a candidate as well, and he was there just using the tools. He
Mhm.
didn't do a lot with the education; he just used the tools. Then fast forward a little bit further, I worked for a private equity company and I purchased shopping centers. Now, why I started my CCIM education was because I was very well entrenched in ICSC, and I felt
Yeah.
that my networking was kind of flat.
Okay.
And everybody in ICSC knew what was going on in ICSC. So really, the big shopping center guys, everybody knew what was going on, and I needed a new network to find deals for us to purchase. And I started down the CCIM route for that. So I took my 101, which I had already completed all my appraisal institute courses. So 101 was kind of a refresher. The
Okay.
102, 103 were fantastic, which, user decision analysis and market analysis, second to none, education. Um, and then what I found is I did all my courses in person, and my 104 course, the final course we took, I actually went with one of the gentlemen that I took the early two courses with, and he had a place in Florida, and we wanted to take our test in New Orleans.
Oh,
So we kind of rushed down to Florida, took our 104 in Florida, I think a month or two before the test, and we stayed in his parents had a place, so it was kind of an easy go. But
right.
part of that is that's the kind of friendships and network that I was able to put together because of
Right.
CCIM. And now I've been going to all the meetings, and I actually always stay with the same guy. We share a room, we go
Wow.
together, and it's easy. It's good to save the money first of all, but it's also
Hmm.
it's great relationships.
Absolutely.
I
And
think. Go ahead.
when
Sorry.
when you mentioned ICSC, the shopping center group, I went to a conference. It was probably my first or second conference, and I was a candidate then, and they had a big CCIM booth, and I went to an event there, and everyone was so welcoming and willing to share their story and giving me that kind of encouragement. And I'll never forget, I met Barbara Crane there, and she was on the ladder to become president, and she was so sweet. And I said to her, I said, well, my goal is for next year, because this was, in May. And she says, no, no, you're going to get it by October. And here's how. And I said, I looked at her like, what?
Yeah, she
But
gave you a path, didn't she?
yeah, she
Yeah.
did. I'll never forget that. And I actually did. I actually, by that October, I did what I needed to do, and I took the exam and passed it. It was such an experience. So just to back up a second, for those who don't know, what is CCIM? What does it
Uh,
stand for?
the letters stand for Certified Commercial Investment Member. But what CCIM, how it originated was, I guess it's almost 60 years ago now. There was a group of guys that got together and realized that they needed to have a unified language to speak real estate. And they put together an education program so that everybody could understand what each other was talking about, um, whether it's net operating income or after tax benefits. So they really wanted to create a single language so that people could understand what everyone was talking about, and everybody's speaking the same language. It is part of the National Association of Realtors. It's one of the commercial arms of the National Association of Realtors. So you need to be a realtor as well,
Hmm.
which is a great benefit. I think I won't even guess how many thousands there are, or tens of thousands of realtors there are. Um, but that's how it started, and that's kind of where we go from now. And right now, CCIM to me is an outstanding network. It's an outstanding way to get education, as well as a toolbox. Um, so online tools, development tools, demographics, all sorts of information and access to information. And that to me, as a sole practitioner, is hugely valuable.
Yes, absolutely. I totally agree in that. I know when I was an undergrad and I wanted to get into commercial. I just really didn't know how. So I just, went the residential route, but I don't regret my path at all. But since, being exposed to commercial and all of the different, facets and the realm of commercial real estate, it's so fascinating. And I definitely utilize my books and my charts and everything, doing. I had a client call me yesterday asking me about lease versus own, commercial real estate. What's the benefits? How can I help them? And I said, absolutely, let's set up a meeting. So it is definitely useful in my business. So we talked about the what CCIM is. Let's talk quickly about the why. So for me, I like I said, I had CCIM on my radar, a long time ago, and I just figured that getting the education, would be, beneficial to me. That was the only way I could figure out, how to go about it best. So as we mentioned, the courses, and everything is so useful and so powerful. And you mentioned the network, and I agree with that. I've met several people in the past. I've been a CCIM since 2017. So, in the past 4 years,
Amazing.
I know, right? It's been 4 years, and it's been so useful to me. And, people calling me. I had someone call me from California, asking me to help them with a possible listing for a Rite Aid in the northeast part of Philly. So the network, the education, the resources. Any advice or anything you would give anyone that is looking at, going on that path to obtaining their CCIM?
I would say that the advice I would have is stay on the path. So, you know, what what sets us apart is not only the education but also the experience. So for someone who's coming up and trying to achieve their CCIM designation, you really want to make sure that you have the deals to get them done, because it's not just about being able to pass a test. You have to, in order to take the examination, you have to have a certain portfolio of experience, which allows me to call Candace and say, hey, I have this to do. I know she's experienced because she has a CCIM. She's done a handful of transactions that provide that experience, so that I know who I'm speaking with is not somebody who wants to get their teeth or I guess get started in the business. It's They know what they're doing, so you're able to call them and be certain when you make that call, I can refer business to this person. And it goes the other way as well. Some of my best clients currently are referred from other CCIMs who were not in the area. They couldn't do the business. They had whatever the case. So I think for me that's the key is to know CCIMs are practitioners. The other thing I'll say about the education is it's taught by practitioners. So it's not like
Yes.
you know, you have a university professor who's done huge deals, and he's a big thinker, but from day to day he's not doing lease transactions,
That's
or
right.
he's not doing sales of shopping centers. He's working as a consultant for kind of big thinking stuff. Our educators are actually practitioners. They
Yes.
do the same things that we do, and that's so valuable when you're learning to be able to connect the dots to how am I going to do this today, and how does this translate into dollars tomorrow.
Yes, I agree wholeheartedly. And just for me, just some closing thoughts and advice I would give, especially for minorities. There's less than 2% of minorities in commercial real estate, and CCIM has a great cultural diversity program where they half of the tuition for the courses you can qualify for a scholarship. So I would encourage anyone who is thinking about um, learning about commercial real estate, getting their CCIM, again, to stay with it, and to reach out to those in your area. Like I said, it was so instrumental for me when I went to that conference, when I met Jeffrey, when I use LinkedIn all the time. So definitely reach out to those who have the designation. I'm sure they would be more than willing to, take you under their wing. No one that I have reached out to in the organization has ever been anything but supporting and helpful. And any other last thoughts about the program or anything you want to leave, Jeffrey?
Sure. Two quick thoughts. First is I took all my classes in person, and I think that's one of the reasons that I'm able to utilize the network as strongly as I can, because those face-to-face meetings, having lunch on the off time, having a drink afterward, there's a lot that goes on other than just what goes on in classroom for those 8 hours. So I would say go in person if you can. And then I'll plug our chapter. We are doing, we basically do a an event a month. We have 4 quarterly breakfast clubs. If you're in Philadelphia, join us. Go on to PANJDECCIM.com. You don't need to be a member to come and join us at the CCIM breakfast clubs. There's always something good to talk about and some good networking. And then also we have scholarships. We have 2 scholarships annually that we're able to provide. So if you need some assistance, or if you're just scared about it, or you're saying, wow, that's a big step, after you take your 101 and you say, I think I want to do the 102, I'm not sure, I can't afford it, we have scholarships for you. So don't be shy. We definitely have the ability to provide assistance to come and take that next step.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I thank you so much for tuning in with me today, Jeffrey. It's been great. And
Thanks for having me.
everyone,
Always a
please,
pleasure.
great, great. And everyone, if you need my assistance, you know how to reach me. I'm on Instagram at Commercial Candice and on YouTube. So thank you for tuning in and make it a great rest of your week.